I'm going to go ahead and get started and we'll let more people join in this evening as they log into the webinar. My name is Sherry. I'm from the Arlington Heights Memorial Library. And I want to thank you all for joining us for tonight's program, Job Search Strategies for 2023. Before I start and introduce our presenter, I wanted to make you aware of a few upcoming job-related programs. In September, we'll have a two-part series on using social media in your job search. That's on September 14th and 21st. We're also doing one-on-one resume and LinkedIn profile reviews. I'll put that link in the chat for you so you'll be able to know how to get to those reviews in upcoming programs. And then our presenter tonight is actually one of our resume reviewers. So I'm sure he'll speak more to that as well. Now I'm happy to introduce tonight's presenter, Bruce Bennett. Bruce Bennett is a LinkedIn trainer, career counselor, and coach who helps job seekers and individuals reach their full potential. With over 20 years of experience in recruiting and managing operations, Bruce has a deep understanding of the job search process. Bruce's coaching and mentoring services are designed to help people identify their strengths, develop their skills, and build their networks. And thank you, Bruce, for joining us this evening.
Welcome to Job Search Strategies for 2023, brought to you by the Arlington Heights Memorial Library and myself, Bruce Bennett. And let's just get started with a little introduction and notes for tonight. I do the resume reviews and LinkedIn reviews for the library. I've done several presentations for them through the years. Currently, my main gig is through the McHenry County Workforce Network, where I've volunteered since 2010 and have been doing a regular presentation of Internet Job Seeker series every month for them since 2018. I have a blog and I also do these kinds of presentations for other libraries and job clubs. A couple of years ago, one of my good buddies and I decided to do a podcast, so we created B Squared Discuss LinkedIn, where we kick around an element of LinkedIn anywhere for 10 to 20 minutes and then put that out on our podcast channel. So that's available for your listening pleasure on your favorite podcast provider. Let's see here. This is a slightly different screen than I'm used to, but we'll go without that. I don't see the little pencil and stuff that I can usually share, use to highlight the screen. Anyways, general notes for today. We're really going to talk about 8 different elements to help you focus on your job search. I think when you try to talk about job search strategies for 2023 and try to confine it to an hour, it's almost like trying to empty Lake Michigan with a 5-gallon bucket. But we can take a really good stab and give you the tools that are needed. One of the things to keep in mind is that anytime you have a underlined word or phrase on this presentation, it's a link to a video or an article or a website that I'm directing you to. And you will have access to the deck afterwards and such. Also, my contact information is on the last slide. Sherry referenced a little bit about the library and such. And again, all of these slides will have a hyperlink when it's underlined. And this will take you to the main library page, where, of course, now they're featuring it as the marketplace. But if you delve further into some of the services and stuff that are available, there is a jobs and careers section. And of course, this hyperlink up here at the top of the page will take you to that section. And you can just see some of the different elements here that you can get some help with, even so much so that you can get one-on-one help. And here you can learn about a little bit about myself, as well as the other resume LinkedIn reviewer too. So there are a lot of resources available at the Arlington Heights Memorial Library. Now, job search strategies for 2023. There's a lot of different elements that go into job search strategies. And basically, the first job search strategy is creating your job search tools, your marketing pieces, your resume, several other different elements that are essential for you to be an effective job searcher. One of the most important elements in job search is really planning and structuring your time. From time to time, people will want to take a couple of weeks off. Sometimes it's even months if it's during the summer. But it really is about planning and structuring your time to reach that goal of finding a job or a career. Now, sometimes it's suggested that you create a separate email just for your job search activities. And that's really true if you have an email like italianprincess@yahoo.com, which is actually an email address that I came across one time when working for a company. Or if you had an AOL.com email address, you might want to update it to a more common Gmail address. One element that's very important, I think, is to track and document your job search activity. And that's whether you're receiving unemployment and you need to provide that documentation, but it's really more about understanding where you've applied to, how long has it been, do I need to follow up with them, and such. So it's really important to stay on top of your job search activities, and documenting your efforts is really important to understanding when you might need to follow up with someone. And of course, setting goals is important, but make sure they're SMART goals. And by SMART goals, we mean specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So let's give you a quick example. You're going to go to a networking event. Well, the idea is not to just go, but have a goal in mind. And you might say, well, I'm going to meet 3 new people and collect their business cards and network with them. So that is specific. It's measurable. If you get maybe 4 or 5 business cards, you've actually increased and overdone your goal. Easily achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Now, one time a career coach said, set a date when you're going to have a job by. And quite frankly, I took that on and didn't realize how horrible that was as a goal. I mean, it was specific, it was measurable. Do I have a job by July 17th? Is it achievable? Well, not necessarily, because there's a lot of factors into play. So definitely take a SMART approach when goal setting. Now, a lot of times people look at job search as a full-time job, and it kind of can be. But the important thing is really at some point to drop the mouse and get out of the house and network with individuals, meet with people. And along with that also comes me time. You can't be focused 24/7 on finding a job on the computer. You've got to drop the mouse and get out of the house. Now, one way that you can kind of accomplish that is by volunteering, whether it's at your local library, maybe the food bank, an animal shelter. But volunteering is kind of another means of networking. So it's something that can help you in your job search. Now, here are the specific elements we'll talk about tonight. First off, we'll talk about a resume. Secondly, we're going to talk about applicant tracking systems, or ATS as they're known. It's an important element in your job search, whether you realize it or not. Number 3, we're going to spend a couple of minutes on cover letters. Something simple, but yet something that's really needed. For an elevator speech, it's a vital element to be able to talk about yourself, whether you're in a networking center situation or even an interview. And of course, along with that comes interviewing skills. And then to kind of put everything together, we're going to bundle it up a little bit with social media, because that's really an important element. Part of social media is also networking, and that is key. 65 to 90% of jobs that are obtained are estimated to be the result of networking. And last but not least, the internet. It's out there and it's live. Okay. Resumes are not created equal, and the paradigm for job search has changed radically over the years. Years ago, you used to be able to answer an ad in the newspaper, believe it or not. Then came along Career Builder and Monster, and then a few other things came up, and then it was Indeed and LinkedIn and such. But occasionally people will be stuck and be sending out dozens, hundreds of resumes and not getting a call back. And one of the problems is they're sending the same information out for different job descriptions. You really need to customize your resume to fit a specific job description. Just because you're a customer service manager and you're applying to a customer service manager role doesn't mean that your resume is a good fit for that job posting. Key skills from that job ad must be on your resume. And of course, with creating a resume, it all begins with self-awareness. What do you bring to the table? Now, at the bottom of the page here, it's identify top 5 skills by HITEST. It's this is a hyperlink to this website where you can go in and you can take a quick test. The basic report is free. They have an upgraded version, but it helps you identify your 5 top skills. This is very similar to Clifton Strengths or Strength Finders 2.0 as it is. Because sometimes people have a really hard time understanding what they did for the last 5 or 10 years at a job. You're on autopilot. So many people don't recognize the strengths and skills that they bring to a position. So this is a great way to kind of start looking for that. Now, ideally, you're sitting there and thinking, well, what do you want to do? And of course, that question plagues everybody who's in job search, whether they've been in it for 10 minutes, 10 weeks, or even 10 years. So, but identify 5 job titles that would be appropriate for you. And then more importantly is, what are some companies that could utilize that job skill that you have, job title, and you want to start following them and actually being engaged with their social media. So it's important to identify the job titles and establish some target companies you would ideally like to work for. And of course, understanding the skills that are needed for those job titles that you're looking for. I always encourage my clients to create a spreadsheet and start listing all of the skills that they have. You know, like LinkedIn has a skill section, but you can only list 50 skills that you have, only 50. And when you start thinking about it, you'll have a lot more. You can refer back to performance appraisals or reviews that you've received to get a better understanding of things that you could incorporate into your resume. You know, once you've identified those skills and which skills are required, determine if you have any shortfalls, and how you can address that issue is maybe by some additional education, some volunteer work, or maybe some training. Now, Catherine Byers has a short video here. It's about 6 minutes. And a lot of times, normally in my sessions, I'll play a lot of these videos, but we don't have the time. But that file will give you a little bit of background on the approach of identifying the skills that are needed and how to address them and such. Now, I didn't pull these up, but I was going to share a couple of resume formats. I'll share at least two of these. Here's a chronological resume, which is your standard resume format. Let's get down here to the bottom. Why is this not popping up like it should? Anyways, you can see my header information here. It has a professional summary, business experience, several different positions, going through history, down to education, and then a section on continuing education, where company has sent me to different workshops or seminars and such, which is an important element of your continuing education. Another important section today is technical skills or software skills. What kind of things are you bringing to the table? Now, another popular format is the infographic. Now, some career coaches will send people who are longer tenured in the workforce, wink, wink, nod, nod, older individuals. But this format is not really useful and a lot of times not well received by HR. In fact, I've actually been asked to send them a regular resume when I've submitted dysfunctional type. But let's take a look at infographic, because this is a little bit different. It has, a name up here at the top, some job titles, contact information over here on the left, professional summary, skills and strength in this left panel, work experience, education down here in the left panel at the bottom. And then we move on to page 2. Again, some contact information replicated, but now we have technical skills, so that they're talking about all of the technical skills that they use. And then they also offer some volunteer experience and professional development. So there's a lot of different formatting for this job seeker. Infographic type resume. I've even seen photos of the job seeker on this type of format as well. A lot of times people who are in marketing, younger college graduates, people in graphic design will use this type of format. One problem is that it's not really user-friendly for applicant tracking systems. But those are your two basic resumes that I think work best today. Now, in your resume, you're going to have work experience and you're going to have some bullet points. You're not going to use the job description. You need to put it in your own words and what you did. Now, of course, here's an example of maintained accounting records for AR and AP. Well, yeah, that's okay, but you want to put some kind of metric behind it. And when you can say, I managed 1,000 accounts receivable and accounts payable working directly with the CFO, you've now added a scope of how much work you were doing and also established a reporting relationship with an officer of the company. Another quick example, answered the phone. Well, everybody answers the phone at work, but maybe in your role, you're in a customer service role, and you actually resolve customer issues through an inbound calling system averaging 60 calls a day. Again, you're providing a metric, a number. If you're a salesperson, we increase sales by 10, 20%, those types of things. Last example, real quick. I managed and supervised 10 staff members. Well, that's great. It talks about that. But when I can put it into a different terms of talking about coached and developed 22 direct reports in supervisory role positions, it really talks more about my talent for recognizing individuals who can be successful and nurturing them through their career in basically doing a succession plan for my role and also for the company. metrics, important thing to include in your bullet points on your resume. Now, there's a lot of times when you can think you have a great resume and you send it in, you never hear anything, or you get the letter, we're moving in a different direction, or we'll keep your resume on file. Well, odds are there's no one that actually even saw your resume. You just submitted it to the system and you didn't get past the applicant tracking system robots. So here are 4 different websites, and I listed them in order of how I prefer to use them. They are all different. They all have different things, like the Professional Me is unlimited, Cultivated Culture, you get 10 scans a month, Skill Syncer, you get 1 a month or 1 a week, and Job Scan, you get, I think, 5 a month. And of course, there's ways to get around that. If you're a veteran, a lot of times companies, when you're in job search, will give you free status. Even LinkedIn will give you a free year if you're a veteran. Now, here's a little video that talks about how JobScan works. All of these I think of as different vehicles to help you improve your resume. And the Professional Me, I think of as a Buick. And these other 2, the Cultivated Culture and Skill Syncer, are more of a Ford or a Chevy. The Job Scan used to be a Cadillac, but now it's been reduced to being a Yugo or a Ford Pinto because they've really hidden a lot of the information. This is the report for the Professional Me. Very simple. You copy and paste your resume in the job ad, you click submit, and it creates a little graph and it scores your resume. How well does it match? Well, 29% is not a very good match. You really want to be in the 70+ percentile. At least the keywords I was using quite a bit. When you scroll on down the report, it actually lists the keyword from the job ad and notices how many times it was on your resume. And of course, when it's not on your resume at all, it's highlighted in pink. When you've got it on your resume, it's in green. In a few cases where you had it on your resume and more times than in the job ad, it's highlighted in yellow. And it's not like you need to take, a couple of instances of the sales off of your resume. It just lets you know that that word is being used a lot. The main thing is those words that are in pink need to be strategically inserted into your resume. So that's pretty much about it. The last part of the report is the keyword context. So sometimes something may be wacky, doesn't look like it makes any sense. So they take and highlight the keywords that they've used and picked out. And when you apply to a company, those keywords are already programmed into the system. So if you don't have those on your resume, you're going to get the letter, we're moving in a different direction, and we'll keep your resume on file. So all of the reports look differently. And I show all of these reports in my Resume Cover Letters and Applying Online webinar every month for the Workforce Center in McHenry County. Now, what is an applicant tracking system? It's a human resource information system. It's just one little part of that system that will scan your resume. A lot of times companies have these. Any major company, even medium-sized companies, are going to have a human resource information system. It basically handles everything from applicant submissions to termination, retirement. Biggest complaint is takes the human out of human resources. And the way it works, you submit your resume, the software scans it, parses your data into their database, does data mining, collects the information. Maybe there's some screener questions and will note your answers. And basically, it identifies and ranks you as a candidate. So if you rank high enough, then a human set of eyes will actually be looking at your resume. Now, applicant tracking systems usually don't read a PDF. So unless directed to submit a PDF, use a Word docs. Avoid resume templates because a lot of times they have a lot of funky formatting. Also, ATSs really don't read multiple columns. A lot of times I'll see people who put 3 columns up at the top of their resume with different skills or other important areas that they're competent in. Sometimes people will actually put the information of their contacts, numbers and name and such in the header of the document in a Word, and that isn't read. And of course, misspelled words aren't read. So there's a lot to know about this, and I've given you just enough for you to understand a little bit more about it. One other important thing is the serif fonts like Times New Roman, which is almost a default on Microsoft Word, is not accurately read by ATSs at times. Sometimes there's confusion between a couple of letters like the J and the G, the I and the L. So use a sans serif font. Size does matter. You want to use an 11 or 12 font on that resume. Anything lower than that is really difficult to read sometimes. And ideally, you have a margin of 1 inch, 3/4 of the inch at max, because you want plenty of white space. If you're trying to squeeze a 3-page resume onto 2 pages, don't. Use standard terminology. Don't get creative. Work experience, not career achievements. Education, not professional training. And name the document for the relevant position that you're applying to, like Bruce Bennett, customer service manager, or customer service, something along those lines. Avoid the use of acronyms, but if you have to use them, spell it out and then use parentheses for that. Now, here's just a quick example. Here's Baxter, and you can see Baxter.com careers. And you have to click on careers to start searching for jobs. But once you do, all of a sudden the URL changes to myworkdayjobs.com, Baxter. So Baxter has hired My Workday Jobs to do their applicant tracking. So that's just one way to notice if you're looking at an applicant tracking system and applying that way. Okay, cover letters. What function does it serve? Basically, you introduce yourself to the recruiter, state your interest in the position, relate why you're a good fit. Now, paying cover letter is an article. It's kind of a unique cover letter, but it does work if you understand a company's pain and have experience in dealing with that pain. 4-sentence cover letter is a video by Andy Lasavides, a career coach in the Chicago area, very prolific with a lot of great information. So I would encourage you to view this afterwards. And the cover letter can really help you define a few things, especially if you've got a referral from the inside. You can identify that employee. You can really stress why the position interests you or why you're excited about it. Talking about experience in the industry. You can talk about employment gaps. Maybe you cared for elderly parents, or maybe you were raising a family, you're returning to the workforce, any number of different things. Maybe you took time off to go to college and get that master's degree. You can add a couple of bullet points, but no more than a few paragraphs. If it's longer than half a page, it's too long. Now, here's just a sample cover letter template. LinkedIn alerted me to the senior client relationship manager position, job ID, matches my experience, extensive experience, blah, blah, blah. My work at Lodestar Research utilized BPA worldwide brand reports to evaluate B2B publishers, which was a part of the job ad, familiarity with BPA worldwide brand reports. I look forward to discussing how my background's a match for this opportunity. It's 4 sentences. That's all you really need. So even if a cover letter is optional, do this simple exercise. make your application stand out. Now, a really important aspect of job search is the elevator pitch, or the tell me about yourself. Two different animals. They kind of are the same thing, but the elevator pitch is briefer, should take about 30 seconds. And it's really about experience you bring to the table and relate key strengths. The tell me about yourself is a longer version of the pitch. And really, again, it's strengths and skills that you have, and where you can talk about some achievements or metrics that you've achieved or accomplished during your time. And this is a little photo from the next page, where this is the painful elevator ride. A short video, but it really gives you about 4 or 5 examples of people riding in an elevator trying to introduce themselves. Now, this elevator pitch, this is from a comedian who's British, and shows you a really bad example of him introducing himself, and then a great one. Now, this financial advisor pitch is a longer video. I usually don't play that, but again, it talks about how to really pitch your skills to someone. Now, here are some video examples of tell me about yourself. You know, they're not asking for, your history. A lot of people make the mistake of kind of repeating their resume, and that's really the wrong approach. The worst thing you can do is, did you want to know about me professionally or personally? Once you've said that, you've already failed the interview. So here are 3 different examples, and I would recommend Pamela Skilling's the first. She talks about taking a bulleted approach. John Haney from The Job Shopper talks more about having a scripted approach. And I used to play his video for my attendees at the webinar, but frankly, on a 1 to 10 scale, he probably answers a 12, and I wouldn't expect anybody to replicate that. So Pamela Skilling's is more real world relatable. Now, when you're interviewing, it's best to be able to relate a story. Stories are memorable. And here's a hyperlink to this document. It's about a 20-page PDF, and it really helps and outlines how you can take your skills and craft stories that will make it more memorable to the interviewer and help them remember you and have you stick out from the crowd of everybody else and such. It's really a good read. It's free, it's quick. And the main goal would be practice, improve, practice some more and improve. Now, when I do my presentation about interviewing, I talk about these kinds of things. And, it's easy. What are the 3 greatest skills that you bring to the position? And I could say, customer service, decision-making, or training staff. Well, that's fine. And it answers the question, but I'd be more tempted to say, well, customer service has always been one of my strong points. And that reminds me of a time when we had one of our Nielsen panel members call into the office and said that her son had been hurt by our equipment. And I said, well, I've never heard of such a thing. And she said, are you calling me a liar? And I said, no, quite frankly, I've just never heard of anybody being hurt. Let me come out with one of our field reps and see, get an eye on the situation. We got out there. By that time, the lady had kind of calmed down and kind of admitted maybe little Johnny had his fingers where he shouldn't have had. But I was quick to say, well, maybe we should have done a better job of hiding our equipment from little inquisitive minds. So I looked at it. I said, yeah, we should have done much better here. Let's button this up, hide it so that he's not tempted to play with it again. And as I left, I handed the lady a gift card for Chili's. And I said, I'm really sorry about this inconvenience. Please have a night out on us. So that gives me an example of, or the interviewer, an example of my customer service capabilities. And of course, the other two are other examples. If we had more time, I'd go into those. Now, here is a great video. This is Paul Cameron. He's a IT recruiter in the Chicago area. And this is a video that he produced. He has a lot of videos on his website and on YouTube. And basically, this talks about 7 fundamental things you must research. He talks about how he sent a client to a interview, and his client came back to him and said, gee, I was kind of surprised that she asked so many questions that were available readily on our website. Oops. Not good when you're talking about $120,000 a year job to have the client think that. So this is a great thing to understand and position you better when you're researching a company for an upcoming interview. Now, you know, there's lots of different phases. There's the phone screen. Basically, that's where it starts out. You know, stand during the phone interview. You always want to have a few questions ready. Is it a new position? What growth is the company expecting? What are the next steps? But you really want to avoid those rambling or really long answers. And those are easy to fall into because you're just talking on the phone, right? No, you're actually interviewing for a job. So you have to be mindful of your discussion, and are you answering the calls, or are you going on and on and on? Now, here's a video from John Haney, 8 mistakes to avoid in the pre-screen call. And it's pretty easy, and probably the easiest one is to get off track and talk and talk and talk. So be mindful of that. One of the other things, especially in 2023, although I can remember having video interviews back in 2012 and 2014, but it's very common today. You know, Zoom, Teams, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, Skype, FaceTime. There's so many different things, but you want to be aware of your background and the environment. You know, do you have a dog that's going to bark? Maybe he needs to be in another part of the house. You can practice recording on a laptop or tablet to see yourself and how that you're coming across via the screen. There's a couple of videos here or a couple of websites that can help you practice. Also, Andy Lasavita has about a 20-minute YouTube video that talks about online interviewing. And the first couple of things he talks about is the lighting and your background. So it's an important element of your video interviewing. Now, there are a lot of questions that can be asked during an interview, and you should be prepared for all of them. And I have a long list that I go through in my regular resume workshop, but here are videos for all of them. This is replicated from an earlier slide, but John Haney from the Job Shopper talks about, what are your greatest weaknesses? Why should we hire you? Why do you want to work here? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? These are very common questions, and they're tough ones to answer if you're not prepared. And that's what interviewing is all about. It's in the preparation and the practice that you do that makes the difference between failure and success. Now, of course, in face-to-face interviewing, sometimes things get a little wacky. And this brings me to Bob the Builder, a former neighbor who was trying to work at IKEA. He submitted a lot of applications. Eventually, through several different interviews, he ended up in getting hired. He never had to make a chair and take a seat, but it's one of those wacky things where he's actually the one that does build the dioramas and furniture for the seats. Now, remember, interviews can be a challenge. And so this is a little funny Monty Python video with John Cleese, who does an interview that I think is well worth watching and helps to keep in mind that sometimes it's the company, it's not you. Okay. Now, if you're on LinkedIn, they also offer some interview prep help. On the Jobs tab, over here in the left panel is interview prep. And if you have a free account, they'll provide an answer framework. So here's the tell me about yourself and how to approach the question. And they give you some tips and such as well. One of the things that they also offer is categories. They have 26 common questions. The first one is tell me about yourself, which 95% of the interviews are going to start with that question. And if it's not that, it's going to be, what can you tell me about our company? So those are two easy questions that you should be able to answer. But these are other categories that they also offer, like administrative assistant, customer success. But one of the main things here is that you can do one of these questions and practice and get feedback by either doing a typed response or recording a short video and then sending it to one of your LinkedIn network connections for feedback. So again, it's always about practice and making better at those things. And of course, after you've had an interview, one of the best steps that you can do is follow up and send the individual a thank you letter. If you meet with 6 people, send 6 different letters. I know that might be hard, but changing up the wording and such will be very important in the long run. But again, the simple 4-sentence cover letter or thank you letter goes a long way. And of course, I'm a big advocate of the actual printed thank you card. Now, why use social media? And of course, we see all kinds of things here. Different logos, WordPress, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, which is now an X. The little blue bird has gone bye-bye. But you use social media to build a network of connections and find job opportunities. And you know what? Employers are looking for you on social media. They use it for screening. Companies search Yahoo, Google, and Bing to find you, as well as LinkedIn. 50% of the candidates have a professional persona online, and that's important. 37% are posting about the candidate. That's what they're looking for. They look for what people are saying about you. 30% of companies have a dedicated social recruiter. They're looking at social media all the time. And of course, a quarter of the time, they discover a reason not to hire a candidate. So you need to have your Facebook, have the grandma test. Anything you wouldn't want your grandma to see shouldn't be on Facebook. Social media, all kinds of numbers. 92% of companies use it for recruiting. 45% of Fortune 500 firms use it. 73% are hired successfully with social media. 42% of companies say that candidate quality has improved. So there's a lot of numbers out there. The main thing is just be consistent across all the platforms. Use the same photo, the same identity or bio, maybe a summary or mission statement. You can be a jack of all social media, but master of none, but select those that work best for you. And in my case, I really use LinkedIn, Twitter, and occasionally Facebook to develop some business or at least interest in some of my upcoming webinars and stuff. But LinkedIn and Twitter, I'm using all the time. And of course, there's a wealth of information out there on the internet for you. Now, here's what social media used to be prior to the internet. And of course, my favorite piece here is the LinkedIn that has a Rolodex. And of course, a Rolodex went out with the buggy whips years ago as well. It doesn't relate anymore. Now, LinkedIn, why use it? Well, over 930 million professionals are using it. And if you look at these statistics from Hootsuite, man, there's a lot of job search activity that's taking place, even though that's the minority of action and activity that is taking place on LinkedIn, believe it or not. Now, when you look at somebody's profile, you'll probably see something like this. This is my introduction card. You can see my profile photo. Here you can see my name. There's a little speaker icon. And if you click on that, it will play the little name pronunciation that I've incorporated, and also the tagline, which says, "Hi, I'm Bruce Bennett, and I help people in job search and career transition." Now, this is the headline where I've listed a lot of different skills that I bring to the table. Many times people will have vice president of research at Lodestar Marketing. Well, that's great, but that locks you in a place and time. By listing skills, you've actually given a recruiter an idea of all the skills that you bring to the table. Employment, alma mater, and you can see that I'm providing services as well. But there's no way to connect to me. You can easily follow me, but unless you click the More button here, you won't know how to connect with me. So click on the More button, hit connect, and then send a customized message about why you want to connect with me. Hey, I met you through the Arlington Heights website, job search strategies for 2023. Let's connect. Doesn't have to be a long, you only have 300 characters to send an introduction to someone that you don't know, but you want to make it meaningful. And of course, this is just one element of the LinkedIn profile. There's many others, but there's a lot of reasons to create a LinkedIn profile. Here is one of them. There are different tabs here that you can go to. Right now, we're on the job tab. It's a little briefcase icon. And here I put in project manager for Green Bay, Wisconsin. And here we've got 10,000 results. Wow, really? So there's a lot of filters that you can use to incorporate. Usually I'll use date posted, just show me the stuff in the last 24 hours. I don't want to be wasting my time applying to something that's been out there 3 weeks or even 2 weeks. Experience level, company, job type, on-site, remote, location, commute time. A number of different filters are available here. Now, another aspect is this LinkedIn Career Explorer. This isn't on their LinkedIn page. You're not going to find a link when you're on your profile for it. But this takes you to a website of LinkedIn, and it basically helps you identify the skills that you've listed and what alternate job titles there might be. So for this example, I looked in Chicago. I did customer service advisor as my job title. And here it talked about 9 job matches for customer service advisor. And the first one was customer service specialist. There were several others. And there is a sorting criteria here where you can go from high to low and then find jobs on LinkedIn or find connections on LinkedIn or in that job title. Somebody you can network with or might have a lead for you or know of another company that might be in the hiring mode. So LinkedIn's Career Explorer. And why network? Well, it's an exchange of information, ideas. You can explore your interests or passion, whether it's work or off time. And really, the concept is meeting people who you can help or who can help you. And the bottom line is really you're networking to build a base of advocates to help you in your career. And of course, you want to think about giving versus getting. What can you give to those individuals? Maybe you might have come across a job ad for somebody that's looking. When you network, you want to be prepared with goals or objectives. Earlier, I mentioned about maybe collecting 3 business cards, making 3 new connections at a networking event. Make yourself approachable. Don't stand in the corner, be out there in the middle. Yes, you can have a soft drink or a drink or appetizer plate in your hand, but you want to smile. And you want to be actively engaged. And when you're talking with someone, you really want to be in the here and now and not thinking about the last interview that you had that didn't go well, or, listening to them, how you can help them, how maybe they might be able to help you. And of course, collecting business cards to follow up with them at a later time and maybe add them to your LinkedIn network. And of course, practicing engagement, conversations, have some icebreakers and stuff ready, any number of different things. Where to network? You can go to job clubs, like Holy Family Job Club is in the area. There's also several others. There's Holy Family, there's St. Hubert's, St. Joe's Employment Ministry up in Libertyville. Those are a little further away, but there are a lot of different job clubs. The Path Group, there's a job club down in Plainfield. There's a lot out there. And of course, job fairs. Again, you're networking not only with potential employers, but other job seekers as well. And you can kind of share your stories, learning that you're not alone. Library events, local chamber of commerce, business meetings, community and volunteer activities. Again, volunteering can lead to unrecognized network potential where, you could be having a casual conversation and it turns to that you're looking for work and the person asks you what you're doing. And it's like, well, that's strange. I was just in the modes of putting out a requisition for that type of work. Maybe we should talk. Even just going about your daily business, stopping at the bank, waiting in the grocery line. You never know, that person in front of you or behind you may be more receptive to chatting and talking, and you might find some common ground, whether it's a hobby, business, what have you. Where to network? It's easy to find places. You can go to Eventbrite or Meetup. My blog has some areas listed in the Chicagoland area. Trade shows and conferences are always good. Networking events. Network After Work they used to have a couple of things every month in Chicago. That's probably dialed a little back since COVID, but they may be returning. Also, if you're in a hobby, network with your hobbyists, fellow hobbyists and stuff. And of course, social media as well. You can email, you can phone, you can text on your social media things, ask for a coffee meet. If you're in job search mode and you're looking at a company, try to find an individual and ask them for an informational interview. Now, I've never liked that term, informational interview. So I usually talk about, I'd like to learn more about what you do in the company. All of these are different tools to help you. Most importantly, the elevator pitch, because that's usually what you're going to use in a networking event. Business cards, you don't have a business card any longer, but go to Staples or your local Office Depot, Office Max, and for $15-20, you can get some business cards printed up with your name, your contact information, maybe your specialty, some of the top skills that you want to be found for and stuff. Those are a nice leave behind or a networking tool. Again, stay focused with the person you're talking to. Ask open-ended questions. Don't do yes or no type questions. And use an icebreaker or a simple question to start. Even, hey, is this your first networking event? Can work. So you can network digitally too. Send them a personal greeting, asking open-ended questions. Let them know you're in job search and that you maybe want to pay it forward. Here's a couple of quick little examples. These are things that I probably sent out on LinkedIn and such. but just a couple of quick icebreakers that you can send out on LinkedIn or other social media. Here's another one. Here's one specifically for LinkedIn, because I found your recent post in the LinkedIn Chicago LinkedIn group very interesting. Would you have time to chat more about your company, about your role and your company? My experience is with XYZ at such and such a company. Let's connect on LinkedIn. So there's lots of different ways to phrase these things. So the internet, there's so many resources online, and they can help you in your job search. Now, this first one here will take you to a presentation that Dennis Curtin did for the Arlington Heights Memorial Library, where it was basically how to avoid the ATS abyss, how to perfect your resume. This is a video that is on the Arlington Heights Memorial Library YouTube website. It's a presentation I did earlier this year on Job Search Over 50. These are different websites here that are local. Illinois WorkNet, if you're in Illinois, it's a great resource, as well as the Job Center of Lake County, the North Cook Job Center, which I think is in Wheeling or Palatine, and then the McHenry County Workforce Network, which is my home base pretty much, in Woodstock, Illinois. Where can you upload your resume? There are innumerable places, but these are just a few of them. Glassdoor, Indeed is very important. Even though LinkedIn isn't here, that is my primary recommendation, is to be looking on LinkedIn and such. Now, if you're a university or college graduate, even if it's been a couple of decades since you graduated, go back to your college and go to the Career Center and see what services they may have available to you. You'd be surprised. They'll welcome you with open arms. Now, here are 3 different videos. Heather Austin, again, a great coach, best job search moves to make in 2023. And here's another one by Andy LaCivita, how to stay positive in your job search and improve your results in 2023. And then, of course, 10 of the best job search tips for 2023. So a lot of it's social media, it's networking, and you got to have the tools at your disposal, the resume, the elevator speech, the interview preparation, the social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Now, this is a hyperlink that will take you to my blog page of upcoming events. But here's what I'm doing in the next several weeks. Resume cover letters and applying online. That's on Wednesday, September 6th. On Monday, September 11th, I'll do Guide to a Winning Interview. On Wednesday, September 13th, I'll do the Network to Success Job Club, where I'll talk about the elevator pitch and other important job search tools. And then in the middle of September, I have 2 LinkedIn workshops, LinkedIn for your job search, and then LinkedIn strategic guidelines. And that's it. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. This is my contact information. You'll have access to the deck. And if you have questions, let me know. And I guess with that, we'll throw it open for questions.
Will any of your sessions you mentioned be recorded? So the other sessions you're having, I think, will those be recorded?
Those are not recorded. Those are all live. Although I do make my presentations available to people, even to non-attendees.
So your slides will be available. It
My
won't be
slides will
recorded.
be available. In fact, if we do this, if you're on LinkedIn, you can come here to my profile and you can select contact info, and you'll see down here, SlideShare.net Bruce Bennett 3 presentations. If you click on that link, it will bring up a host of different job search topics and such. So And of course, here's social media and job search. We go back a little bit further. Maybe we'll see a couple of other ones. Boost your job search by volunteering. Oh, here's always a popular one at the beginning of the year. Making lemonade out of lemons, or how to cope with job loss. So, wealth of information there.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
All right.
Well,
At least, Bruce, they know how to get a hold of you.
yes.
So they can ask you more questions or for advice, or set up a resume review, or help with LinkedIn
Yes.
through the library website. I did go ahead and put the library website services for careers, and where Bruce's information is on there as well. And someone else said, thank you, very informative. So,
Great.
all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you, Bruce, for sharing your wealth of knowledge. And we hope you join us for another program in the near future.
All righty.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
I know.
Bye-bye.